Hello friends, myself Salil Gadgil. Welcome to Math Opera. In this video, I am going to deal with the concept of fractional powers. How do you solve problems with fractional powers? That is what we are going to find out. Let's get started. So to understand how to deal with fractional powers, we need to understand three things first. The first thing that we need to understand is the power law of exponents. What the power law says is a raised to m, the whole raised to n. So do you notice what's happening here? You're first finding the mth power of a, and that answer is being raised to power of n. So a raised to m, the whole raised to n is a raised to m into n. Basically what it says is, if you're finding a power of a power, you can multiply the two powers. Now let's understand why this is so. So the meaning of a raised to m, the whole raised to n would mean that my base is a raised to m and my power is n. So what it means is a raised to m is multiplied with itself n number of times. Correct? That is the meaning of exponents, that the base gets multiplied by itself power number of times. So if the base is a raised to m and the power is n, then a raised to m should get multiplied with itself n number of times. Now do you recall what is the product law of exponents? Product law of exponents said that if you multiply different exponents having the same base, so the base here is a, you can basically add the powers. That is the product law of exponents. So here the base is a throughout, so it would be a raised to, I can simply add the powers. So it would be m plus m plus m and so on. How many number of times will you add this? You will add this n number of times. Now what is addition of m with itself n number of times? Repeated addition is multiplication. So m added with m n number of times would basically mean it would be a raised to m multiplied by n. Therefore, what it means is a raised to m, the whole raised to n is a raised to mn. When you have a power of a power, you can simply multiply the two powers. That is what it basically means. Now let's understand the second concept. What is the meaning of 64 square? 64 square means you're trying to find the second power of 64. So it basically means you're trying to find 64 multiplied with 64. Right? 64 multiplied with 64 is 4096. Now what would be the meaning of 64 raised to half? Now 64 square basically meant you are multiplying one 64 with another 64. You are multiplying 64 two times. 64 raised to half is a method of finding a number whose square is going to be 64. So basically what we are trying to find here is, we are trying to find the second root of 64, or it is also called the square root of 64. Basically we are trying to find the number whose square or which multiplied by itself gives you a 64, and that number happens to be 8, right? 8 8s are 64. So when you have exponents, if you have a exponent which is like 64 raised to 2, if the power is 2, it basically means you are squaring the number. Whereas if you wanted a representation to find the square root of a number, it would be raised to half. That is the convention to find the square root of a number. So how would you find the cube root of a number? Cube root of a number would be something raised to 1 by 3. So 64 raised to 1 by 3 would simply mean the cube root of 64. So what you are trying to find here is, okay, before we do this, let's understand what is 64 cube. 64 cube would be 64 into 64 into 64. But 64 raised to 1 by 3, the cube root of 64 would mean which number has a cube of 64. So we are trying to find a number whose cube is 64, and that happens to be a 4. So I hope that we understood the power law of exponents. I hope you understand what is something raised to 2 or something raised to 5, and I also hope that you understood how do you denote the root of a particular number. Now in the next segment, let's learn how to find the fractional powers. So now let's take some problems based on fractional powers and let's understand how to solve them. So I have 32 raised to 2 upon 5. Now what I am going to do here is, I am going to split this 2 by 5, the power of 2 by 5 as 2 into 1 by 5. Okay, and I can do that. 2 upon 5 is 2 into 1 upon 5. Now we learnt in the power law that if you have product of two numbers as your power, you can actually rewrite this as 32 raised to 1 by 5, correct? I can take one power first, so let me remove this bracket. I can write 32 raised to 1 by 5 the whole square. Do you recollect the power law? It said that when you have power of a power, the resulting power is basically multiplication of these two powers. So 32 raised to 1 by 5 the whole square is how I can write this particular problem. So if you notice, what I have really done is I have split the fractional power as a fraction, which is 1 over 5 in this case. And what does 1 over 5 mean as a power? It means the fifth root of 32. And as the other part is a power of 2. So what I am now going to do is, I am first going to find the fifth root of 32. So how do you find the fifth root of 32? You take 32 and you prime factorize it. So let's take the number 32. Let's prime factorize it. 2 16s are, 2 8s are, 2 4s are, 2 2s are, and 2 1s are, right? And now we are trying to find the fifth root. So when you find the fifth root, make groups of 5 numbers at a particular time. So the fifth root of 32 is going to be the number 2. This group of 5 2's is counted as a single 2. So now that you get the fifth root of 32 is 2, we write this as 2 square, and 2 square is going to be 4. Similarly, 81 raised to 3 upon 4. So now what we are going to do is, we are going to split this power of 3 by 4 into two parts. So can you guess what these two parts would be? One part would be 81 raised to 1 by 4, because there is a power of 1 by 4 there, the whole raised to 3. So what does this really mean? I have split this 3 by 4 as 3 into 1 by 4, of which I have taken the 1 by 4 inside. This means the fourth root of 81. So again you prime factorize 81 and make groups of 4. So if you do this in your notebook, you will get this answer as 3. So 81 raised to 1 by 4 is 3, and then we have a power of 3. So 3 cube is 27. Now let's try to find 729 raised to 5 by 6. How can you split this particular power? It would be 729 raised to 5 into 1 by 6. I have split the 5 by 6 as 5 into 1 by 6. So I can write this as 729 raised to 1 by 6, the whole raised to 5. Now what does 729 raised to 1 by 6 means? It means the sixth root of 729. And how do you calculate that? You prime factorize 729 and you make groups of 6 numbers at a time. If you do that in your notebook, if you do the prime factorization, you will get the answer as 3. Sixth root of 729 is 3, and 3 raised to 5, the power of 5 remains. So 3 raised to 5 is 243. Now 64 raised to 2 by 3. So now let me show you how to do this in a different way. Now if I prime factorize 64, I would get 2 raised to 6. So if I'll show you that, how it can be done. Let's take the number 64 and let's try to prime factorize it. So 64 divided by 2, and the process continues. You could try this in your notebooks as well. So what did you get after prime factorizing 64? You got 6 2's, right? So 64 can be written as 2 multiplied with itself 6 times. So 64 can be written as 2 raised to 6. The whole raised to, this power remains 3 by 2. And now, isn't this power law? We have to apply power law over here because you have a power of power. So how do you apply the power law? You multiply the two powers. So 2 times 2 raised to 6 into 3 upon 2, right? And now you can calculate this. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 3s are 9. So this becomes 2 raised to 9. What is the meaning of 2 raised to 9? 2 raised to 9 is 2 multiplied by itself 9 times, and 2 raised to 9 happens to be 512. So 64 raised to 3 by 2 is going to be 512. This is the other way of doing it, where you prime factorize the base. Now let's try to do 64 raised to 2 by 3. How will you split 2 by 3? I would write 64 raised to 2 by 3 as 64 raised to 1 by 3 times 2, right? If I prime factorize 64, I would get it as 2 raised to 6 multiplied with 1 by 3 multiplied with 2, because power law applies over here. 6 divided by 3 is 2 and 2 2's are 4. So this becomes 2 raised to 4, which is 16. So the answer is 16. Now how will you solve 216 raised to 5 by 3? I will split this particular number as 5 by 3. The power of 5 by 3 can be split as 216 raised to 1 by 3, the whole raised to 5. So what does 216 raised to 1 by 3 mean? It means the cube root of 216, which happens to be 6. If you prime factorize 216 and make groups of 3, you will get the value as 6. So this becomes 6 raised to 5. And now you can calculate this. This would basically mean 6 into 6 into 6 multiplied with itself 5 times. So what we have actually learned so far is, when you have fractional powers, we always split them as one is the integer part and the other is the fraction part. We find the fractional power first because it makes the number smaller. Fractional power basically means finding the root of a number, and then we find the power of the resulting number. So this is how we actually calculate fractional powers. I hope that you understood this particular concept and that you will practice this concept in many problems. So I hope that you found this video useful and interesting. In the next video, I'll come up with some new idea, some new concept. Do like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel and stay connected for more updates. Goodbye.